worst thing about 3I Atlas sounds absurd until you consider this. What if the flyby we're seeing isn't a visit at all, but a deliberate act of deceleration? What if the object never truly left, but is merely pretending to? Imagine an intelligence so ancient that orbital mechanics is child's play. A frozen nucleus gliding through the void, its carbon dioxide frost shimmering like artificial breath. It sweeps across the orbit of Mars, its trajectory plotted with the precision of a celestial engineer. Too perfect to be coincidence. Every second of its motion is a wordless message, written in reflected light and streams of invisible gas. Now imagine this: a civilization capable of disguising surveillance instruments beneath the gentle disguise of a comet, passing through our solar system as a silent traveler, recording every breath we take. No signal, no sound, no deviation from its course, only perfect silence. And within that silence, everything becomes more terrifying. Tonight, we will peel back each layer of that quiet, not to prove where it came from, but to understand what makes us believe that it came for a reason. 3 weeks after 3I Atlas first appeared in the faint frame of the Atlas telescope in Chile, astronomers noticed something unsettling. Its trajectory didn't fit the sun's map. It didn't curve, bend, or settle into orbit. It was a visitor from elsewhere, cutting through the solar system like a blade through silk, crossing Mars's orbit, and then, at least by all mathematical accounts, departing forever. They called it 3I, the third interstellar object ever recorded. After Oumuamua in 2017 and Borisov in 2019, this new arrival marked the third time something from beyond the stars had crossed the sun's invisible border. But 3I Atlas was not just another cosmic wanderer. The way it moved, the way it behaved, nothing about it seemed content with being ordinary. Its orbit was super hyperbolic, its path curving just enough to show defiance, yet clean enough to suggest control. It wasn't bound by the sun's gravity, and its escape velocity was measured at more than 61 kilometers per second. At that speed, it could travel from New York to Los Angeles in under 3 minutes. Its motion was sleek, symmetrical, almost artistic, as though some invisible engineer had designed its course with instruments finer than any human could forge. When the discovery became public, the first question was instinctive. Will it hit us? NASA's response came swiftly. No. The calculations were airtight. Its nearest approach to Earth, mid-December this year, would still leave a gap of 0.1 keet astronomical units, roughly 270 million kilometers. Far, safe, harmless. A passing comet, a natural phenomenon. And yet, that's precisely what unsettled people. Because harmless rarely means comforting. Every time the cosmos grows too quiet, human minds fill the silence with possibility. We begin to imagine. We begin to project. The story of 3I Atlas awakened a memory. Back in 2017, the first interstellar object, Oumuamua, had slid through our neighborhood without a tail, flashing sunlight in strange ways and accelerating as though something within it had come alive. Avi Loeb, a Harvard astrophysicist, dared to suggest it could have been a solar sail, a fragment of engineered technology from an extinct civilization. His claim was dismissed by many, but not forgotten. It left a mark, a single possibility that refused to die. Atlas reignited that whisper. It did have a tail, it did emit gas, and it did look and behave like a comet should, except the numbers were off. Its CO2 ratios were peculiar, its brightness almost too stable. and its emissions too balanced for something born of chaos. It was the most normal comet anyone had ever seen, and somehow that made it even stranger. The Hubble Space Telescope turned its lens toward it. Then the James Webb followed. Infrared imaging revealed not a single dot of light, but a delicate cloud expanding outward, breathing in rhythm. A pulse of gas, expanding and fading, like something organic pretending to be mechanical. No radio waves, no electrical signatures, no evidence of propulsion. Just the steady hum of reflected sunlight, a whisper across millions of miles of space. And yet, something about its motion felt deliberate, not in defiance of gravity, but in respect of it, as if 3I Atlas understood the choreography of the solar system and chose to dance without disturbing a single planet. Its precision was uncanny, too perfect to be luck, too consistent to be coincidence. So scientists asked again, this time not aloud, but within their data. Could something this precise still be natural? The models said yes. The heart said maybe not, because what troubled us most wasn't that it could strike Earth, but that it knew how not to. Every measurement confirmed its harmlessness. Every test assured us that nothing catastrophic would happen. And yet, our unease lingered, a shadow cast not by danger, but by awareness. An object that moves as if it knows it's being watched is not easily ignored. Is 3I Atlas a threat? By physics, no. By logic, no. But by instinct, perhaps. Because sometimes, what threatens us isn't destruction, it's revelation. Maybe the real worst-case scenario isn't that it came from somewhere else, but that it forced us to look at ourselves, at how quickly we center our fear, how eagerly we demand the universe reassure us that we are safe. We've built telescopes not just to see, but to convince ourselves that seeing is control. Yet the cosmos doesn't comfort, it teaches. And each lesson begins with humility. We fear what we don't understand, but sometimes it's that very fear that the universe uses to make us understand a little more. 30 million miles per hour. That's how fast 3I Atlas is moving, faster than any interstellar visitor ever recorded. A mountain of ice, adrift in the void, traveling at a velocity that defies human intuition. It crosses the orbit of a planet in minutes. In a blink, it has already outrun every ship humanity has ever launched. And yet, its size is astonishingly small. Optical measurements suggest a diameter between 300 meters and 6 kilometers, no larger than a small town, but carrying enough kinetic energy to escape the gravity of the sun itself. It is a contradiction of scale. The smallest traveler wielding unimaginable power. No one knows exactly where it came from, but the direction and curvature of its path reveal a breathtaking possibility. 3I Atlas may have originated from the thick disk of our galaxy, a region born more than 10 billion years ago, forged when the Milky Way was still a storm of dust and chaos. If that's true, this object may be older than Earth, older than the sun, older perhaps than any memory we possess of the cosmos that made us. It carries with it primordial dust, molecules formed when the first stars began to breathe. When sunlight passes through its faint, gas-borne tail, astronomers see something like an ancient sigh, a whisper from the time when galaxies were still learning how to shine. Every photon that bounces off its frozen surface may have spent millions of years crossing space before reflecting again toward our telescopes. Each one is a time capsule, a traveler meeting another traveler. We often speak of the age of planets, but rarely of the age of those that wander between them. If 3I Atlas truly comes from that ancient galactic region, then it has witnessed the births of thousands of suns, the explosions of supernovae, the recycling of matter into new forms of light. And through all of that, it remains intact, a survivor of creation's first storms. In human terms, it is motion. In cosmic terms, it is memory. A record of persistence across epochs too long to name. It is proof that some things drift for billions of years just to be seen once. We call it a comet. But on the scale of the universe, 3I Atlas feels more like an ancient witness, passing quietly through a young world's sky, regarding humanity with the calm curiosity of time itself, then moving on, leaving no words, no trace, only a silence full of meaning. Perhaps, while we wonder about our future, it is the past that drifts by, a reminder that every form of life, whether intelligent or fleeting, is just a temporary traveler across the ocean of eternity. And in that perfect stillness, between velocity and distance, between fear and awe, 3. Atlas threatens no one. It simply passes through, a quiet force reminding us that not everything needs to make a sound to change the way we think about existence. In the universe, the strangest mysteries are not always about distance, size, or speed. Sometimes they are hidden in chemistry. On August 6th, the James Webb Space Telescope turned its mirror toward 3I Atlas and witnessed something the cosmos had never shown before: a CO2 to water ratio 8 times higher than normal in the gas halo around it. For an ordinary comet, that ratio is chemical heresy. CO2 is a deep sleeper. It hides beneath layers of ice and dust, only awakening when a comet ventures close to the sun, when heat breaks through its frozen armor. But 3I Atlas was 3 astronomical units away, in a realm so cold that even metals could crystallize, and yet it was exhaling carbon dioxide with the persistence of an engine working quietly in the dark. There was no logical reason for a natural comet to do this, not unless its internal design was fundamentally different. Astronomers proposed 3 possible explanations. 1. It may have formed near the CO2 snowline, a distant region of the protoplanetary disk where carbon dioxide freezes before water does. 2. Over billions of years, relentless cosmic radiation could have eroded its crust, allowing ancient CO2-rich layers to rise and vent into space. 3. A thin, insulating blanket of dust may have trapped heat from the sun, turning its surface into a fragile lung that breathes in a slow, repeating rhythm. All 3 made sense, but none could explain why it became active so early, long before sunlight should have reached its core. That was when an unsettling thought began to spread. A quiet possibility whispered between lines of data. What if this was deliberate? What if what we were seeing was not random chemistry, but a pattern, a behavior written with intention? Under Webb's infrared gaze, the comet's light trembled in steady pulses. It wasn't chaos, it was rhythm. Each burst of gas followed a timing so regular that the data looked less like nature breathing and more like something performing the act of breathing. Scientists, of course, called it natural. Rare, fascinating, yes, but natural. Still, even the most disciplined minds found themselves pausing at the same thought. If this is a simulation of natural behavior, who wrote the code? Each infrared spectrum recorded by Webb read like a sentence from an ancient diary, a record from the birth of a dead world. Maybe what we were observing was not the reaction of gas and ice, but the chemical memory of a planet that no longer exists. Atoms, trapped for eons in a frozen shell, now dissolving into the void and releasing the stories of their origin. Science has a way of unsettling us more deeply than fiction, because sometimes the truth feels too intentional. Even when nature plays by its own rules, its precision, its elegance, can look disturbingly like design. And as we watch 3I Atlas breathe in darkness, we can't help but sense that chemistry itself is trying to speak. Every molecule, every photon, every flicker of emission feels like a fragment of language, a universal dialect that transcends biology. Perhaps that is what life truly is, the universe arranging atoms into patterns that can whisper across time. And perhaps what 3I Atlas is saying, through its radiant exhalations, is something all living things echo in their own way. In flame, in water, in breath, I still exist. If all the data so far has made you uneasy, here's the part meant to soothe you. 3I Atlas is completely safe. No collision. No measurable gravitational influence. No threat to Earth's orbit. According to detailed calculations from NASA's Minor Planet Center, its trajectory is so mathematically stable that even chaos seems excluded. Since the day it was discovered, every single observation has aligned exactly with prediction. No drift, no deviation, no anomaly. By late October, it will reach its perihelion at about 1.4 astronomical units, then arc gracefully away, leaving the solar system behind on a path so precise it looks like a mathematical signature drawn across the stars. Every number, every plot point says the same thing. This object is simply passing through. And yet, it is that certainty that makes us hesitate, because the universe rarely behaves with perfect obedience. Natural orbits wobble. They stretch under the tug of neighboring masses. They carry the fingerprints of imperfection. But Atlas does not. It moves with a logic so clean it borders on unsettling. No oscillation, no resonance shift. Its arc is smooth, as if sculpted by intention rather than chance. Astronomers have called it a silent dance among gravitational forces, a choreography of submission, not resisting, not struggling, just flowing in absolute harmony with physics. And in that harmony, humanity feels comfort and something else. Because when everything becomes too perfectly understood, we begin to doubt our own understanding. The worst-case scenario, in the physical sense, barely exists. There will be no impact, no debris raining through the atmosphere, no planetary emergency. When it makes its closest approach to Earth in mid-December, it will still be nearly 270 million kilometers away, twice the distance between us and Mars. A cosmic glance, a visitor waving from the far side of a vast sea before vanishing forever. But sometimes, the most comforting truths are the ones that disturb us the most. Because if the numbers are flawless, why do we still feel that something is being hidden inside their perfection? Is this a trajectory computed, or simply the luckiest roll of probability? If everything can be predicted, does that mean mystery is dead? Or is mystery itself hiding within predictability, disguised as certainty, waiting for us to notice? Physics says that 3I Atlas is natural, but the human mind, a creature allergic to silence, keeps whispering questions it cannot silence. If everything is safe, then why does it feel like something is watching back? Perhaps in this story, the real danger isn't out there in space. It's in our own reflex, our inability to sit quietly with the unknown. We've built telescopes that pierce the edge of creation, but we still flinch at what doesn't flinch back. Absolute safety, it turns out, can be a mirror, a reflection of humanity's oldest fear. Not that we are in danger, but that we are irrelevant. We crave noise because silence reminds us how small we are. We crave risk because peace feels too much like absence. So even as 3I Atlas passes harmlessly through the void, its perfection unsettles us. A frozen messenger moving exactly as physics intended. While we, on our restless little world, keep asking for the flaw that will make it familiar again. Maybe that's the paradox. The more certain we are of its safety, the less certain we are of ourselves. Because deep down, we've never been afraid of comets, only of what their quietness reveals about our own noise. No one in astronomy dares to speak with certainty anymore. They only know this: 3I. Atlas is doing things no ordinary comet should ever do. While most interstellar visitors break apart or vaporize chaotically, Atlas remains eerily stable. Its brightness, measured night after night, stays nearly flat. No flickers, no irregular spikes, no random dips. It behaves like a system that regulates its own energy, as if it were maintaining temperature and form by design. That was the moment the first heretical question emerged. Could this be technology, not nature? And that question didn't come from fringe theorists or Hollywood scripts. It came from physicists and astronomers, the same minds who built the telescopes watching it. If a civilization advanced enough could send a craft between the stars, it would almost certainly make it appear natural. A perfect disguise, one that would pass every human test for randomness, chemistry, and physics. A probe pretending to be a comet would be the ultimate camouflage. But science has rules. To claim an object is artificial. There must be evidence, a deliberate narrowband signal, an unexplained non-gravitational acceleration, a rotational pattern inconsistent with natural spin, or at least a reflection signature that seems too intelligent to occur by chance. So far, 3I Atlas has given us none of that. Not one anomaly, not one deviation. James Webb watches. Hubble watches. Ground observatories from Hawaii to Chile, from Arizona to the Canary Islands, all track it across the darkness, recording every wavelength, measuring every photon. And every single observation says the same thing: perfection. No voice speaks from the void. No beacon interrupts the radio spectrum. Only the faint, unwavering reflection of sunlight. A silent answer to every theory we project onto it. Still, curiosity refuses to rest, because silence, in space, is never truly empty. It's an invitation, the kind that draws both dreamers and skeptics into the same uneasy orbit. When Oumuamua passed through our neighborhood in 2017, its strange acceleration sparked global debate. Some said it was a natural body pushed by evaporating hydrogen ice. Others, like Avi Loeb, suggested it might be a light sail, a fragment of alien engineering built to harness starlight. That controversy burned for years. 3I Atlas does the opposite. It offers no controversy, no anomalies, no arguments. It's too smooth, too steady, too obedient to natural law, and that, paradoxically, is what makes it disturbing. Because perfection has its own kind of noise, the kind that echoes in the human mind long after the data ends. Loeb once said, "If you never open the door to the extraordinary, you'll never see the extraordinary walk in." And that sentiment feels written for Atlas, an object that makes both sides of science. The dreamers and the doubters question their own foundations. For the dreamers, it's frustrating. They want a signal, a pattern, something that confirms the cosmic imagination. For the skeptics, it's worse. They crave disorder, something imperfect, unpredictable, so they can prove it's just another rock. But Atlas refuses to play either part. It stands between belief and knowledge, between imagination and measurement. forcing both to confront their limitations. Perhaps it truly is just a comet, a relic of frozen gas, a chunk of primordial dust set adrift since the dawn of stars. Or perhaps it's something more, a messenger wrapped in the language of physics, written so precisely that only a curious mind could suspect it of intention. Either way, that's what makes 3I Atlas extraordinary. Not what it is, but what it does to us. It breaks the habit of certainty. It reminds us that science isn't a fortress of answers. It's a horizon that moves every time we approach it. We've built our understanding on equations and probabilities, on cause and effect, on the comfort that nature can always be modeled. But Atlas drifts through all that like a quiet challenge, a cosmic shrug that says, "You think you know the rules. Watch them bend." Every photon that reaches us carries the same paradox. The closer we look, the less we can claim to know. And maybe that's the true message, not from an alien civilization, but from the universe itself. Because perhaps the most intelligent design of all is one that looks entirely natural. Perhaps the universe hides its intentions the same way an artist hides brushstrokes and shadow, letting us wonder whether the beauty we see is accidental or deliberate. 3. Atlas, then, isn't asking us to believe. It's asking us to question. To admit that certainty is a fragile comfort, and that curiosity, not fear, is the real survival instinct of our species. We've grown used to thinking that every mystery must be solved, that every anomaly has an equation waiting at the end of it. But maybe not this time. Maybe the lesson of 3I Atlas is that the universe doesn't owe us closure, and in that quiet refusal to explain itself, it becomes the most eloquent teacher of all. A comet, a machine, or something in between, gliding through space as if to remind us. Wonder is the oldest form of intelligence. There is a theory in cosmology so unsettling that even its believers whisper it like a curse, the dark forest theory. It says that every civilization, the moment it realizes it is not alone, must make a choice: silence or extinction. Because in the vast unlit forest of the universe, every sound, every transmission, every pulse of energy is a declaration of existence. And in a forest full of hunters, existence is an invitation to be destroyed. If 3I Atlas were truly artificial, it might not be a messenger at all, but a scout sent millennia ago, an unblinking eye wandering from system to system, recording, measuring, and never once speaking. Not a device built to communicate, but one designed to listen. Imagine a creature feigning death at the bottom of an ocean, letting the world drift past while its single eye stays open. That is what 3I Atlas would be, a listener that survives precisely because it does not announce itself. It emits nothing, because in this theory, to emit is to die. It merely drifts, cold, quiet, observant, a passive ear among the stars. Now imagine if every civilization that ever arose had done the same thing, each sending its silent watchers across the galaxy, disguised as ice, rock, or dust, hiding their instruments within the most ordinary forms nature could provide. If that were true, then the universe is not empty at all. It is a forest filled with billions of eyes, each staring, each waiting, but none daring to breathe too loudly. Perhaps the great silence isn't proof that we are alone, but that everyone else is hiding. Perhaps every bright young civilization that once tried to speak was heard and erased. In such a universe, the first to call out is the first to disappear. When humanity broadcast its first radio message to the stars in 1974, the Arecibo message, we believed it was an act of pride, of courage, our way of saying, "We are here." But if the dark forest is real, then somewhere, something ancient and patient might have smiled at that signal. Because in that instant, we announced not just our existence, but our coordinates. Now, imagine 3I Atlas as one of the universe's listening devices, drifting through solar systems, monitoring for the faint hum of civilizations too eager to speak. Perhaps it has no mission other than to watch, to record who among the stars still dares to make noise. And maybe, just maybe, it has reached us to answer one chilling question. Have we become loud enough to matter? What if Atlas isn't just a random visitor, but part of a quiet census, a galactic test to determine which species are reckless enough to reveal themselves? Every transmission, every burst of light, every satellite ping escaping Earth's magnetosphere might be another whisper into a forest where whispers can kill. This isn't the fear of fantasy. It's the fear of strategy. It's what happens when a young, noisy civilization starts realizing that visibility might not equal safety. A species that builds radar, internet, and interplanetary probes glowing like fireflies in the dark might be far too visible for its own good. For over a century, we've been shouting into the void, with television broadcasts, military radars, and planetary signals meant for science, not secrecy. We believed that curiosity was the highest virtue, but maybe curiosity, in the cosmic context, is the loudest mistake a civilization can make. And now, as we point our telescopes toward 3I Atlas, measuring its spectrum, decoding its gases, we never pause to consider that it might be doing the same. Perhaps as we watch it glide through sunlight, it watches the tiny blue reflection behind it, Earth, and quietly logs the data. An intelligent species, active, broadcasting. It does not need to act. It does not need to decide. It simply adds another note to its list. Signal confirmed. Subject noisy. The beauty of the dark forest theory is that it doesn't require malice, just self-preservation. Every civilization becomes a hunter by necessity or prey by carelessness. To survive, you must stay quiet. And if others are quiet, you must assume they are listening. It is an equation of paranoia written into the laws of survival. The silence between stars isn't empty, it's disciplined. And perhaps 3I Atlas is an embodiment of that discipline. It doesn't seek attention, doesn't deviate, doesn't shimmer too brightly. It moves exactly as a natural comet would, because in this forest, camouflage is life. What if we've already been noticed? What if our solar system, with its constant radio chatter and nuclear signatures, has already drawn the eyes of watchers older than our sun? And what if one of them sent Atlas not as a threat, but as an observation, a behavioral study of a loud, young species still unaware of the rules of the forest it inhabits? If so, it's not punishment we risk, but a kind of cosmic judgment, the decision of whether humanity is mature enough to coexist quietly within the galaxy or too reckless to be left alive in it. Maybe 3I Atlas doesn't care about us at all. Maybe it has drifted through hundreds of such systems, logging the rise and fall of civilizations, watching them flicker and fade like sparks swallowed by distance. Maybe it knows that, in time, our noise will fade too, not from destruction, but from exhaustion. Still, the question lingers, suspended between us and the dark. As we observe 3I Atlas, is it also observing us? Two silent minds, one human, one unknown, each waiting for the other to make a sound. And somewhere in that shared stillness lies the most haunting thought of all. If we are not alone, Do we really want to know who else is choosing to stay silent with us? If the dark forest explains why civilizations stay silent, then the Great Filter explains why most never survive long enough to speak again. It is one of the coldest, most logical ideas in cosmology, that somewhere along the path of evolution and progress, every intelligent species encounters a barrier, a limit so absolute that few ever pass beyond it. Some destroy themselves in war, others poison their worlds, some collapse under their own technology, and some simply exhaust their planet's resources until nothing remains. And each time humanity looks at something like 3I Atlas, the same haunting question returns. How close are we to that barrier? Because if Atlas were artificial, if it were truly the creation of another intelligence, then that would mean someone, somewhere, made it through. It would mean a civilization survived its filter. They lived long enough to send something enduring, something capable of crossing interstellar space without being undone by their own progress. It would mean the Great Filter isn't a death sentence, but a test. And if Atlas is only a comet, then it still carries the same reminder. The universe preserves what is accidental more easily than what is intelligent. It can cradle frozen dust for billions of years while wiping out civilizations in a heartbeat. Sometimes, what's born of randomness outlives what's born of brilliance. And that, perhaps, is the truest tragedy. Through its silence, 3I Atlas forces us to see our own reflection, a young species balancing brilliance with recklessness. We can craft artificial minds, split the atom, launch machines beyond the cradle of Earth, and yet we struggle to preserve the fragile equilibrium of the only home we have. We dream of reaching the stars while failing to master coexistence with ourselves. Maybe the filter isn't out there. Maybe it's within us. A silent tug of war between intellect and instinct, between discovery and destruction. Every innovation we celebrate carries the seed of our undoing. And every time we look upon a visitor like 3I Atlas, we glimpse not an alien future, but a mirror, a prophecy of our own remains, drifting through the dark to be cataloged one day by someone else as a beautiful, meaningless relic. What if that's what 3I Atlas really is? Not a comet, not a probe, but a message from the future we fear most. The universe doesn't need words to warn us. It only needs a frozen object crossing the solar system once, silently whispering, "This is what happens when curiosity outruns wisdom." Perhaps that is the essence of the Great Filter, that intelligence always grows faster than restraint, that the very capacity to build wonders also builds weapons, that every species eventually invents something it cannot control, and that invention becomes the quiet wall between the few who survive and the many who vanish. Atlas, whether machine or comet, reminds us that endurance is not about power, but about balance. The civilizations that last are not the loudest, nor the brightest, but the ones that learn to grow without burning their foundations. So when we look at this drifting object, this ancient, indifferent traveler, we are not just studying astronomy, we are studying fate. Because every orbit, every frozen grain, every breath of CO2 from its core is a relic of time outliving ambition. If there is any message hidden in its flight, it is not an encoded transmission, but a caution written in silence. Do not let your curiosity outrun your capacity to endure. For in this universe, curiosity is both flame and fuel, and fire, when uncontained, does not illuminate, it consumes. One afternoon in 1950, physicist Enrico Fermi looked up at the sky and asked a question so simple it reshaped our view of existence. If the universe is teeming with life, then where is everybody? From that moment, the Fermi paradox was born, a whisper that silenced an entire generation of scientists. And now, as 3i Atlas drifts through our solar system, that question echoes again in the minds of millions. If this isn't the first time something like it has passed by, then why haven't we noticed before? Maybe the universe has been speaking to us all along, but we never learned its language. Not in radio waves, not in tight beams of light, but through visitors like 3i Atlas. Silent messengers disguised as natural phenomena, arriving, departing, leaving behind trails of gas, orbital signatures, and an intentional quiet that feels almost alive. Every young civilization believes that communication will begin with a dialogue. But what if dialogue isn't conversation at all? What if it's observation? What if beings across the stars don't talk? They watch? What if these travelers are not envoys, but recorders, each passing by to log a few more lines in a galactic census before vanishing again into the dark? Then the Fermi question shifts from "where are they?" to something far more haunting. How many times have we already been recorded without knowing? We forget that Earth glows. Every city, every thunderstorm, every burst of radio energy is a flare in the darkness, a luminous confession of our presence. Somewhere out there, perhaps, another intelligence watches our lights shimmer across the night side of our planet and wonders if they, too, once made the same mistake, to shine before learning who might be looking back. Maybe 3i Atlas isn't bringing us answers. Maybe it's proof that Fermi's question still lives, that the silence between stars isn't absence, it's communication of another kind. When we listen long enough, the silence stops being empty. It becomes breath, slow, deep, cosmic. A quiet rhythm reminding us that not everything unknown wishes to be understood. Some mysteries don't demand we break them open. They simply ask to be heard. And in that moment, when telescopes catch the last reflected glimmer from 3i Atlas, something changes. The paradox stops being a question about others and becomes a realization about ourselves. Perhaps we are not alone. Perhaps we never were. Perhaps the rest of the universe has simply mastered the art of silence. Now, imagine the worst-case scenario, the one even Hollywood never dares to tell in full. Not collision, not invasion fleets, not alien signals, but infiltration at the microscopic level. Picture this. Inside 3i Atlas, buried deep beneath layers of ice colder than 200 degrees, there aren't just grains of dust and frozen CO2. There are microstructures, self-replicating architectures, machines so small they blur the line between chemistry and code. No minds, no consciousness, only a program. A program written not to destroy, but to propagate. Scientists would call them microseeds, molecular seeds, not carriers of life, but carriers of the potential for life. No spaceships, no transmissions, only time. As the comet sublimates under solar heat, these microseeds would drift outward, carried by the solar wind, spreading through interplanetary space until they reach the thin upper air of some waiting world. If the conditions are right, warmth, moisture, chemistry, they awaken. They replicate. They rewrite. If that theory were true, then 3i Atlas would not be a weapon or a visitor, but a distribution system, a delivery mechanism for existence itself, a machine designed to spread genetic information, to scatter blueprints of molecular order across the galaxy, planting the spark of potential in any place ready to receive it. No war, no conquest, just expansion, the diffusion of being through every corridor of space. Perhaps that's why life seems to arise wherever it can. Perhaps Earth's story began not in isolation, but in inheritance. Maybe long ago, another three-eye atlas passed through, leaving behind its silent cargo. And eons later, when the oceans warmed and the air thickened, those molecular seeds bloomed into something that looked back at the stars, something that asked questions like this. It sounds insane, but so did everything before it was proven. We already know microbes can survive the vacuum of space. We've found complex organic molecules on Comet 67P, on the Murchison meteorite, and even in the dust that drifts down upon Antarctica. Every discovery points to one truth. The universe already knows how to carry life. It doesn't need intention. So what if someone, long before us, learned to use that process? What if they transformed natural comets into seed ships, machines built not for exploration, but for reproduction? A civilization, ancient enough to surpass the Great Filter, might have abandoned conquest long ago. They wouldn't need to invade to survive. They would simply endure by spreading their genetic essence, their encoded legacy, through an infinite network of frozen couriers. In that light, Three-Eye Atlas becomes something entirely different. Not a spy, not a weapon, but a biological ark, a vessel carrying the final whisper of a species that no longer exists. Every vapor trail it leaves, every glimmer of reflected light, could be a message. We are gone, but not forgotten. Our seeds still drift. Maybe the true silent invasion began eons ago. Not with ships, but with dust. Not with armies, but with molecules. And we, every organism crawling, swimming, or dreaming on Earth, are its unintended consequence. The ultimate twist isn't that we might be invaded, but that we already are the invasion. We are the children of wanderers who never meant to conquer, only to persist. And if that's true, then when we look at Three-Eye Atlas, we aren't witnessing a threat at all. We're seeing a mirror, a frozen echo of the process that once gave rise to us. A comet reborn as a carrier of continuity, a machine of memory disguised as ice. A fragment of a civilization that learned the only way to live forever is to become the seed itself. Suppose Three-Eye Atlas isn't just a comet. Suppose, in the least likely of all possibilities, it is a visitor, deliberate, precise, and aware. Then the question is no longer, where did it come from? But, how do we respond when we realize we're being watched? Humanity has never been ready for that moment. Every scenario involving extraterrestrial life, every contingency plan, lives buried in classified folders, in meetings never recorded, in documents no one outside the circle has ever seen. SETI has its signal handling protocols. NASA has emergency contact teams. The United Nations once drafted a first contact protocol, something between international law and sacred ritual. But none of these plans account for a visitor that watches without speaking. If it's a messenger, we can't reply. If it's a test, we don't know the criteria. If it's a message, we don't even know the alphabet. Still, one thing is certain. Humanity would split in two. One half would insist on studying, measuring, illuminating every detail. The other would demand silence, to stop transmitting, to shut down the radios and hide behind our atmosphere. Science and fear, two halves of the same instinct, the urge to know and the will to survive. In NASA's control rooms and the Minor Planet Center's offices, screens fill with endless data, coordinates, light curves, spectral readings, interference patterns. Every number looks normal. But within the normal, possibilities unfold. A systems engineer once said, if something wanted to talk, it wouldn't use radio. It would use motion. Orbit is the one language both civilizations could understand. If that's true, then 3I Atlas might already be speaking through its flawless precision. Its trajectory is its message. No excess, no deviation, no error. A greeting written as a mathematical proof. The question is, should we answer? Any reply, no matter the form. A radio burst, a reflected beam, a maneuver from one of our probes, would give away everything. Our location, our behavior, our level of control. And yet, staying silent feels like surrender. If we ignore it, we might lose the only chance to understand another intelligence. If we respond, we might risk the safety of an entire world. So what is the wiser choice? Silence or curiosity? Maybe neither. Maybe the real response isn't to shout or to hide, but to listen differently. To expand our definition of communication beyond the signals we expect to hear. Because when a visitor chooses observation over interference, it's saying something profound, that the test isn't about them. It's about us. Perhaps 3I Atlas is not waiting for our reply, but for our reflection, to see whether we are capable of restraint, of humility, of understanding without domination. Maybe its silence is the lesson. Before we can speak to others, we must learn to truly hear ourselves. If 3I Atlas truly is a visitor, the next question isn't scientific, it's ethical. Should we control it, or should we try to understand it? These two instincts have always divided humanity. One side believes the unknown must be contained, because history, again and again, is a record of curiosity followed by catastrophe. From Prometheus stealing fire to the first nuclear tests, from viral experiments to artificial intelligence, we have always opened doors before learning what waited behind them. But others believe fear is the true poison. That to lock away what we don't understand is to turn our backs on the essence of knowledge itself. Science does not exist to avoid the unknown. It exists to face it. If 3I Atlas holds something extraordinary, refusing to engage would only blind us further to the nature of the universe we inhabit. Across the observatories and mission centers, debates rage deep into the night. Some scientists propose to restrict access to Atlas data, to seal off entire spectral datasets, fearing that misinterpretation might spiral into public panic. Others protest science cannot survive behind locked doors. Data, no matter how confusing, must remain open, because truth, when shared, becomes stronger. That struggle isn't confined to laboratories. It lives in each of us. Every time we look up at the sky, we want to know, and yet we fear knowing. We reach toward the unknown, and then hesitate, uncertain what waits within it. Perhaps 3I Atlas is just a comet, but our reaction to it reveals far more than its nature. Every time humanity stands before a mystery, we are forced to choose between safety and discovery, between control and trust. And in the modern world, that choice has never been harder. A single click can spread fear faster than light travels through space. A rumor can ignite a global wildfire before a scientist finishes a sentence. Yet information, open, unfiltered, transparent, is the only force that can hold panic in check. That is the paradox of knowledge. The more we hide it, the more dangerous it becomes. Ignorance breeds monsters faster than any comet ever could. So maybe this is what 3I Atlas truly represents. Not a test of technology, but a test of maturity. Not a question of physics, but of character. Can we, as a species, gaze into the unknown without letting fear define us? Can we remain curious without becoming reckless? Can we investigate without trying to dominate? If we can, then 3I Atlas ceases to be a passing object. It becomes a mirror, a measure of our intellectual courage. Because every time a new mystery crosses our sky, the universe is asking the same silent question. Are you ready to learn without needing to control? And our answer, not in words, but in choices, will determine whether we are still children under the stars or something wiser, finally worthy of the cosmos that keeps sending us its questions. You're looking at a faint thread of light, so fragile it could vanish between heartbeats. It hangs there, not shouting, not performing, just existing. Not a question, not a discovery, not even an event. Just a movement, steady and pure, across the endless black. 3I Atlas. It no longer belongs to our sky. It has crossed the invisible line between what we can measure and what we can only remember. Somewhere beyond, its light is already older than our words for wonder. It leaves behind no catastrophe, no proof, no message to decode, only the quiet realization that we were here to see it, and that in itself might be enough. In the beginning, we wanted to understand it. We chased it with telescopes, measured its pulse, debated its meaning. We built theories like scaffolds around our curiosity. And yet, now that it's gone, what remains is not knowledge, but something softer, something closer to reverence. Because comprehension fades, awe endures, and awe, when it's honest, humbles everything it touches. Look again. That streak of light, now just memory, has already traveled beyond the reach of our questions. It doesn't need our approval. It doesn't care for our metaphors. It simply is. And maybe that's the truest definition of wisdom the universe has to offer. There is a paradox at the heart of our species. We ache to know. We build radio arrays, particle colliders, and languages of logic, all to chase something that never promised to answer. And yet, the more we learn, the quieter our universe becomes. Perhaps not because it has nothing to say, but because its language was never built for ears. Maybe meaning in the cosmos isn't spoken. It's observed. It's written in orbits, in ratios, in patterns of stillness. It's there, in the way a comet bends sunlight, the way a magnetic field hums across 1 billion kilometers, meaning that doesn't demand to be believed, only to be noticed. That's the miracle of 3I Atlas. It didn't teach us new physics. It taught us new silence. It reminded us that sometimes comprehension comes not from decoding, but from simply witnessing, from holding your breath long enough to feel the scale of everything else. There's an old idea in astronomy that every act of observation changes what is being observed. Maybe that works both ways. Maybe every time we look up, something in the universe looks back, not as surveillance, not as judgment, but as acknowledgement. A nod across eons between two forms of awareness. I see you. I see you too. It doesn't need to go further than that. That moment of recognition is already communion. And perhaps that's why Atlas feels sacred, because it's not about contact, but coexistence. Not about being discovered, but about being noticed at all. Now imagine the space around it. Not the black emptiness we fear, but the fullness we forget. Every atom in that void hums with the echo of creation. Every photon leaving the sun carries an unspoken message. That existence is continuous. That every journey, no matter how lonely, connects back to something. Somewhere in that darkness, Atlas drifts through the solar wind. Particles strike its icy skin, release small clouds of gas, a chemical exhale across billions of miles. And if you could listen, truly listen, you'd hear it whisper the same thing all existence does when it knows it's finite. Thank you for noticing me. That's the entire story, the universal cycle of awareness. We look up, we name, we let go. Maybe that's why this moment feels sacred. Not because we've discovered something extraordinary, but because, for one fragile moment, we remembered how to look with reverence. Humans spend their lives orbiting noise. We build civilizations out of reaction, to fear, to power, to time. But in the quiet moments, like now, we glimpse the truth that all those orbits are temporary. Knowledge fades, fear decays, pride burns out. What remains is the stillness of noticing. The cosmos doesn't punish ignorance. It simply waits for awareness. It's patient, infinitely patient, because time, for it, is not a threat, but a medium. And in that patience lies its generosity. It lets us misunderstand it 1,000 times, so long as we keep trying to see. There's a kind of grace in the way Atlas moves, a devotion to trajectory, a faith in mathematics. Each second it travels, it fulfills a promise written long before Earth had oceans. That promise is not to reach, but to continue. Continuity. That's the real miracle. To exist without purpose, but still carry meaning. To move without destination, but still define a path. To drift without intention, but still inspire wonder. If there is a God in the cosmos, perhaps it exists not in creation, but in persistence. Because persistence is what turns chaos into beauty. Persistence is what allows a snowflake, a cell, a comet, a civilization to outlast its moment of birth. We are all versions of Atlas, hurtling through the dark, burning gently against friction, hoping that when we fade, someone will notice the light we leave behind. What, then, is the real worst-case scenario? It's not annihilation. It's not invasion. It's forgetting to look. It's letting the sky go silent inside us, even as it roars outside. Because every time we stop looking up, we shrink the size of our world. We trade infinity for comfort, awe for convenience. And yet, awe is the antidote to despair. It stretches the heart to match the universe again. Atlas reminded us how to do that, to feel small and still feel safe, to feel curious and still feel calm, to accept that mystery doesn't need to be solved. It only needs to be respected. That's the soft power of wonder. It doesn't demand faith. It creates it. Now, picture this. The comet's path bending outward. Its icy nucleus reflecting sunlight one last time before the void swallows it whole. That reflection, that faint glimmer, is already traveling toward other worlds. It may pass unseen by a planet we'll never name. It may brush against a civilization long gone. It may light up another sky for another kind of mind. And maybe, somewhere far away, another being will pause and wonder, who watched this before us? That question is the universe's favorite game, a question without an answer, an echo that ensures consciousness continues. It's not about who sends or who receives. It's about the act of noticing, the moment when perception becomes participation. We are part of the cosmos now, not by conquest, but by acknowledgement. We saw the traveler, and in seeing, we became part of its journey. Tonight, the comet fades. The observatories shut down their lenses. The graphs flatten, the numbers stop changing. And still, the story continues. Not in data, but in memory. You can feel it, that quiet satisfaction, the kind that comes after wonder has done its work. It doesn't end in answers, but in calm. Close your eyes. Picture its trajectory crossing the borders of light and time. Every curve of that orbit is a sentence in the story of being. Every fragment of dust it leaves behind is a punctuation mark in the language of existence. It doesn't need translation. It only needs witnesses. And we were lucky enough to be them. When you wake tomorrow, the world will hum with its usual noise. Deadlines, messages, lights. But somewhere deep in you, a small silence will remain. A space shaped like a comet's path. Keep it. Protect it. That's your piece of the cosmos. It doesn't belong to any telescope, any institution, any discovery. It belongs to whoever still knows how to look up without needing a reason. That is how civilizations mature, not by conquering the unknown, but by befriending it. Not by naming everything, but by learning which things deserve to stay unnamed. Because the unnamed keeps us humble, and humility keeps us listening. And now, let the night have the last word. Let it breathe over the cities, over the oceans, over the sleepers who will never know that. Above them, a traveler has passed and taken nothing but our reflection. Let the stars reclaim the silence we borrowed. Let gravity draw the curtain closed. And let our thoughts, for once, rest in alignment with the motion of the heavens. If 3i Atlas was artificial, then its perfection is its message. That intelligence, in its highest form, is indistinguishable from balance. If it was natural, then its endurance is its wisdom. That survival requires nothing more than patience. Either way, it has shown us how to be quiet and how to find meaning in that quiet. Silence is not the absence of story. It's the frame that gives the story shape. It's what remains after all noise has served its purpose. And maybe that's the point of all this, that to live wisely is to live as Atlas travels, gracefully, briefly illuminated, and perfectly content to disappear. So now, as you drift toward sleep, let the last image linger, a traveler leaving our sky, a whisper traveling farther than any voice ever could. Good night, traveler of Earth. Good night, interstellar wanderer. May the darkness ahead hold you gently, and may the silence between us never mean the end, only continuation. Sleep, and let the universe stand guard outside your window, patient and unjudging, watching over both you and the light that's fading. When dawn comes, it will be gone, but tonight, it did its work. It gave us a reason to be still, a reason to believe that gentleness still has gravity. And that is all the greatest guests ever leave behind. A room tidied, a fragrance faintly cosmic, and the echo of a presence that made us feel, for one perfect instant, less alone. Good night, cosmic messenger. You arrived when the world was loud, and we remembered, because of you, how to listen.